Welcome to The Poetry Joint, a podcast about poets, poems, and poetics. My name, Stephen Donahue. I have a scant knowledge of poetry, and that is the starting point for this podcast, to see what I can learn.
There's a light on in the attic. I can see it from the outside, and I know you're on the inside. Looking out.
Exploring good poetry, bad poetry, sonnets, couplets, ballads, rhyme, no rhyme, grand verse, silly verse, concrete poetry, liquid poetry, words with meaning, words without meaning, old poets, young poets, radical poets, ancient poets, contemporary poets, confessional poets.
Angel-headed hipsters, burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo in the machinery of night.
The Poetry Joint. Hang out. See where we go. In a world where data tells us we have enough food for everyone, statistics also tell us that 1 in 10 people go to bed hungry tonight and every night. Some 800 million people. Seems like somewhere we've gotten that equation wrong.
Clean your plate. I remember my mother saying, "Clean your plate. There are starving children who would love to be in your shoes." I would sigh and eat my peas. Now, an adult, her words echo in my head. To waste food seems an act of hate, so many crying for a meal, facing a true hunger I have never had to feel. My oven warm from baking, even during summer, loves to feed people. The Italian heritage in my blood would like to feed the world. But I cannot set a table large enough to nourish all the starving. I cannot feed the world alone. This is a suffering we all own. Our future depends on a human infrastructure that cares about basic needs. Let us be hungry for change until malnutrition is a problem of the past.
Hunger eats away at us. Hunger eats away at us, gnawing, and the fat have become thin, gaunt. Cyanide kills quickly, but hunger takes its cruel time. I have so many clothes at home, useless. Why did I buy them? The china, the chairs. The days of please pass the salt are ancient history, so unreal now. I see tired living ghosts, and there is nothing left to eat, nothing to steal, even the meltwater consumed. I think of those days when I voluntarily starved myself, when there was food in the fridge, to lose extra pounds, to be normal, perfect. I remember the first day of severe hunger, when stopping by the flowers, I ate them. We ate the rats, the birds, and the leaves, and hence at night the silence, and we pray for death.
We heard the poems Hunger Eats Away at Us by Dr. Vishnavi Pusapati and the poem Clean Your Plate by Brittany Sabatino. Brittany Sabatino, a poet from Washington, D.C. area. Dr. Vishnavi Pusapati, also a published poet. Both of these poets donated their poems to the website Poetry X Hunger, and I recently talked to Hiram LaRue, the person and poet behind the website that got the idea of having as one of its goals linking poetry and the subject of hunger.
My work focused on agriculture, in large measure hunger issues around the world, but I never brought my interest in poetry together with my work in agriculture, in food. And it wasn't until I retired, I got asked to provide some remarks at a university out on the west coast of the US about poetry and hunger. That university knew of my two interests, and they said, could you pull them together for us? In order to prepare those remarks for that class, I started looking, and much to my surprise, I didn't find very much poetry about hunger, empty stomach hunger, on offer. There were some poems, and they were available, but not near as many as I thought could be made available. So I started an initiative called Poetry X Hunger. It's an informal initiative with the help of the United Nations Food and Ag Organization and groups like Feed the Children and a number of arts councils and food banks. We've been able to put together a website, poetryxhunger.com. That's just poetry X, the letter X, hunger.com. We've posted now about 400 poems from poets all over the world who have written about the various aspects of hunger. And probably the most important thing about that website is that it's not static. It's not a shelf on which poets put their poems. They do offer us very generously the poems, and then we make every effort to ensure that those poems are used. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've partnered with groups like the United Nations, with Feed the Children, with all kinds of houses of worship, organizations, community organizations, campuses, and K-12 classroom teachers to be able to use those poems to raise awareness about the tragedy of hunger. And more recently, we've actually used the poems to raise funds to support anti-hunger causes. We raised about more than actually $10,000 US last year to help fight hunger. So we've kind of started proving, Stephen, that poetry can be magically turned into food, and that food can be used to fight hunger. So that's a long answer to your question, but that's basically the pathway.
My life mission is driven by my ambition to provide nutrition and proper prescription to every soul that is living. This is the life in the world that we were given. The end of world hunger won't see fruition until we make the right conviction and make the right decision to stock every kitchen. I know that I'm wishing, but this is how I envision to end this affliction. Please just listen. Women and children are dying of starvation. So I feel the obligation to help our nation move past this stagnation through realization and determination. Observe our very people in the street without nothing to eat or even shoes on their feet. Let's go back in time, and it's probably before mine. Food is derived from the German word fajan, which means to feed. Shall we proceed? And meal meant time rooted from the word mele that the Vikings used back in the day. And hey, I probably didn't say any of these words the right way. I was just trying to display the meaning of the words that we use today. Anyway, starvation still exists like it's immortal, but it's immoral to continue this vicious circle. Think of the innocent children, or think of the elderly that can barely see. Are you hearing me? But despairingly, there is no popularity and charity for food scarcity. McDonald's and other franchises are just throwing away food instead of giving it away. And that's not the way, so let's not downplay this dismay. Most millionaires and billionaires are worried about their shares and other affairs because this problem isn't theirs. And the politicians would only use their position under certain conditions to only feed their commission instead of signing a petition that would stop this attrition. This is my disposition according to the position of my vision. Therefore, we can all make change when we give $1 or spare change. We can all participate or even create food drives that would help many lives so they could thrive. Ultimately, it is up to us to improve our reflection. This world doesn't need perfection, but it does require a connection if we intend to see forward progression in the right direction.
American poet Justin Johnson with his poem, The World is Hungry. A little more of my conversation with Hiram, how things are going on the website, opportunities people have to submit poems, write poems, and use poems.
I've tried to get the word out as broadly as I can. Obviously, still in the process of announcing the opportunity to publish on the website. What I have found is that if given that opportunity, if they become aware of it, many, many poets will, even if they have not experienced hunger themselves, will want to contribute to the cause. And so they can write about their perspective, their questions about hunger, and certainly if they've experienced hunger, then they can look back and write with a great deal of authenticity.
The United Nations has a goal to eliminate hunger in the world by the year 2030. However, since 2019, the numbers of people affected by hunger has been increasing, not decreasing. This poem on the Poetry X Hunger website was by a grade 6 student in India. Poetry X Hunger welcomes poetry from all ages and all perspectives. I Dream by Aarna Pandey. I dream to stand proud and tall and witness a world with zero hunger for all. I dream to see children playing in soil that is rich in minerals, iron, and oil. I implore the citizens to hold hands from nearby towns to distant lands and support our farmers, our real heroes, to achieve the goal of the mighty zero. Chasing the winds that blow from the west, waking the crops from slumber and rest, the clouds that sail on the ocean of sky, a vision I could forever behold in my eye. The farmers toiling in the blazing sun, for us to feed on rice and bun. Paddy fields dancing to the songs of the winds, freeing the misery from our minds. A world where nobody sleeps without food, and children dance with happy mood. From Asia to Africa we stand as one, and share our resources until our goal is done.
We also realize that hunger, while it has mushroomed post-COVID or during COVID and since, and also because of all the conflicts around the world and for a variety of reasons, it's on the rise. We also realize, though, that it's always been with us. And so there are historical accounts of hunger around the world that are very moving. And we've posted those on the site so that if they're so inclined, folks can look at those and use those as the starting point for a poem. And recently, that's a good point, Stephen, hunger is often kind of intertwined with a number of other social concerns, poverty, inequality, and even kind of social justice and cultural differences as well. And so it's not surprising then that the poets who have written about hunger have written about a lot of different facets. We have poems about food waste, which is a real problem. We have poems about malnutrition, about eating well, and about famine, and about crop failure. So, I mean, we have there are various angles that you can use to write about hunger, and poets use that variety in their work.
This excerpt from a 2015 poem from a website that covers topics related to South Sudan. Food insecurity has been an issue in South Sudan since its independence in 2011 and continues to the present day. The poem was titled Hunger Threatens Life, written by John McClure Garang. Hunger is an archenemy of life. Hunger threatens life. Hunger inhibits growth and development. Farming has been and will remain a sole answer to hunger. Farming is a noble vocation. Farming provides sustenance to life. Farming creates wealth, and above all, farming builds a concrete foundation for your dignity. Farming thus earns you an eternal respect and legacy. Farming is medicinal to hunger. Farming is a hospital which everyone yearns for its product. Presidents can't do without food. Ministers, lawyers, professors, army generals, students, police, prisoners, and indeed everybody can't do without food. Food is a human fuel that ignites its engine and sustains provision of energy. Food is life, and life is food. The human blood vessel works better when it is flooded with good food. When there is no good food, all good deeds risk being eroded. We are endowed with precious arable land, river, and rainwater. We are endowed with brains and energetic muscles to wisely use. Let's combine these endowments to find solution to hunger and poverty. South Sudan, Somalia, Mali, Haiti, Nicaragua, Niger, just a few among many countries in the world currently facing food insecurity issues. Robert Lawrence Binyon, born 1869, his poem Hunger. I come among the people like a shadow. I sit down by each man's side. None sees me, but they look on one another and know that I am there. My silence is like the silence of the tide that buries the playground of children, like the deepening of frost in the slow night when birds are dead in the morning. Armies trample, invade, destroy, with guns roaring from earth and air. I am more terrible than armies. I am more feared than the cannon. Kings and chancellors give commands. I give no command to any. But I am listened to more than kings and more than passionate orators. I unswear words and undo deeds. Naked things know me. I am first and last to be felt of the living. I am hunger. There are many organizations that help with relieving local food insecurity issues, from brown bag lunches for school kids to food banks that support individuals and families. The Student Union at the University of Calgary also operates a student food bank. If in need, reach out to one of these organizations. If you are able, support one. The following poem was on a poem card added to meal packages provided by City Meals of New York City. A different poem card is added to the meals once every 4 months. The poem card initiative was by the Poetry Society of America and has since been expanded to Meals on Wheels providers in various other United States cities like San Diego, Portland, and more. As far as I know, Meals on Wheels in Calgary does not provide a poem. Wonder if we could do something about that. At any rate, One Big Family by Francisco Alarcon. One big family. A paragraph, a page, perhaps. We are, in this book, with no end. At the end, all of us are family. Francisco X. Alarcon, very interesting sounding poet, and we'll probably revisit him again on another Poetry Joint episode.
Perhaps the world ends here. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it. We make women. At this table we gossip, recall enemies and the ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite.
Perhaps the World Ends Here by Joy Harjo. Joy Harjo is a past poet laureate of the United States. She was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA. She has written 10 books of poetry. She also performs, plays saxophone and flute, and has released 7 albums and toured with her group, Joy Harjo and the Poetic Justice, and currently with the group Aerodynamics Band. She is a member of the Muskogee Nation. Significantly more about her awards and activities to be found on her website, Joy Harjo.
Going by the pond. My father stops here on his way back home, still covered in the dry dirt of the field. This time last year, the spillway ran half full, becoming home to frogs and water bugs and minnows seeking safety from the brim. He looks down at the water line. It's dropped another foot below the rim. The cattle finally choose to stumble in, their necks stretched to the dirt-brown water far below. He wondered if the geese would come this year, but they still found their way. A green heron the geese tried to chase away has settled at the far side of the pond. My father sits a while, watching the birds. When he stands, he reaches up to brush away the dust.
Another poem from the Poetry X Hunger website. This one by Wynne Morrison. Poem titled Going by the Pond. Wynne is a pediatric critical care and palliative care physician at Philadelphia Children's Hospital. We'll find a couple of more poems from the website to play.
Hunger. In a parallelogram of sunshine beyond a breezeway window, 10 barefoot steps from a small kitchen's small sink, grows a well-staked garden under some rabbit-proof mesh, not far from where an old hose seeps over moss-covered flagstones. Raised from seed and tidied by fussing fingers and a mother's wooden-handled spade. The plants come of age, jostling in their cribs and cracking the pottery. Coiling with ringlets, feral interests, squash blossoms and green, hairy stems, they are no longer the growers' nurslings and have questions. Why do we belong in this gardener's dream? Why not someone else's? Someone for whom a handful of berries might fill a plate too long empty, slake a hunger born forever. Kale, squash, dillweed, beets, peppers, parsley, basil, and butter beans. Leafy foods in every color. How can there not be enough for every plate? I have no answers, she tells them. Then savoring the bounty, wishing she could do more, the gardener fills her bowl to the brim and after sating her hunger, scrapes leftovers into the compost bin, taking great care to secure the garden, as the rabbits tend to raid at dusk.
The poem Hunger by Patricia Trentacoste, a former teacher of literature and philosophy, currently lives in northern Michigan in the United States in an intriguingly named area called Sleeping Bear Dunes.
Testimony. Illumination is a sudden thing. We can only think and wait, and all the while we move, touching this thing, holding that paperweight, running a hand through hair, pulling chin, nose, ears, biting lips, tapping feet, always touching. I'd think strange how I can touch these and not God. My skin then was hide, felt nothing of God. Or was it God's skin, like an orange, fragrant, pitted, bitter peel before the cool, sweet God juice? A dark night passed, and a hot day came, heat like the horror of a beggar on a white afternoon, eating at the public dustbin. And dry, thick in the throat, burning my feet through my shoes, and a friend said, "You must peel the orange. Here, this way." I followed her closely and did the same, finding the flesh inside, touched each still dry lobe in wonder, and bit at last, drank deeply. This was my first taste of God.
That was a poem Testimony by Gavin Barrett. He was born in Bombay. He is an author. He currently resides in Canada. He hosts and co-creator of the Tartan Turban Secret reading series in Toronto. And his poem was on the Poetry X Hunger website.
Time for an alias. Sitting in darkness, not by choice I might add. Power company, the new enemy. Bill not paid for months, now my credit is bad. Candle companion, cooking on gas stove. Separate account for gas, probably will be shut off next week with the money I owe. Food reserves no longer reserved. Like a busy restaurant, my reservation has been cancelled. Taxman seized my refund, guess he needed it more than I. Court date notice came in the mail. Why do they call it a date? A date is what single people wish for, so maybe I'll forfeit mine to someone more deserving, someone lonely for recognition. Is it time for an alias, an AKA for the once known as, the peasant reborn to acquire new riches under a pseudonym, death via the system?
Time for an alias, a poem by Calgary poet Scott Alderson. March 21st is designated as World Poetry Day by UNESCO. Poetry, a vehicle for expressing concepts, emotions, thoughts. Poets strive to name the unnameable, point to frauds, take sides, start arguments, shape the world, and stop it from going to sleep. Write a poem about what inspires you. Read a poem that wakes you up for a day and more. This has been the Poetry Joint. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again in a month's time when we come back with more poems, poets, and poetics to discuss.